remember that. All right, well, let's do some game programming. Here's what I want to do right now. We've got this game mode with this guy that kind of moves around this map, and it's real zoomed in. And there's kind of this fog of war thing that instantly poofs away to reveal new areas, right, as I explore. And the instant poofing away doesn't look good, of course. You know, I can zoom out and look at the whole map, and you can see what I've explored there. So I was thinking today, well, it's about time to at least make that look a little bit better. So the default thing to do would just to add better special effects on all these giant squares. But I was thinking what I really want is something better because, well, the reason I have it instantly poofing away right now is because it used to fade away slowly. And that was annoying because as I went into this region, I couldn't see myself for a little while, and that was stupid, which is why it goes so fast now. But, you know, there's no real reason why it has to be exactly a whole square at a time. So what I was thinking was, we would instead make it so that, say, if I can go north from here, that the square north of where I am, a small radius around it would be lit, right? So instead of this fog of war being made of these giant squares, it would be made of the size of grid squares of the game, and part of it would already be revealed. And so when I step into the next square, I'll still be able to see myself, and then the rest of it will, you know, with more interesting animation or something, you know, go away, right? And then also, if I'm treating it on a 1 square radius, you can do something cool like have the ones closer to you fade out faster, and the further ones come in just slightly later, or fade out just slightly slower, which will, you know, give it some idea of expanding dissipation or something. So that's what I want to do. Now, this old entity type it's an entity called Fog of War, and I'm just going to get rid of that, I think, eventually. But I'm going to replace it with a new entity type. So I'm going to I've already got a thing in this game called the ocean map that is a grid square by grid square thing that like controls where the ocean is. So I'm going to copy the ocean map entity to start with, and then we'll see what that does, if all of that makes sense. Is the lighting buggy? The lighting we haven't really worked very much on, to be honest. It looks like it's a little bit wrong. Yeah, like it definitely, like if the light was coming from the place where the shadows indicate, then different things on this mesh would be forward, or would be lit, and different things would be unlit. Although, honestly, I think it might be normals being wrong in the mesh. I don't have a rendering mode to look at vertex normals, so I could put that on the list. Because then we can go tell somebody, hey, your vertex normals are wrong. It also might be that I might be lighting this just with a fake light that's directly overhead that doesn't correspond to the shadows as well. I'm not sure. Okay. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to go to my entity, or is it in entities? It's in entities. We have this thing called ocean map. And, well, I'm going to make a thing called fog map. version 1. It's a grid-like, and going to have a fog value array. That seems fine. Although I could just pack this into the ocean map. Oh, did I? I think if I go into the editor, I think I declared that you have to have an ocean map. Yeah, that's the ocean map right there. And ocean present is false. Maybe I'll just put the fog in there. Screw it, right? Let's try that approach. It's a little bit, we'll eventually have to rename it from ocean map to effect map or something. Yeah, okay, so fog present is false, and that starts in version 7. Version 7. And these are really ocean values. And these are fog values. I'll also make that do not display in the editor. So anyone who uses values needs to use ocean values. Probably other people use that, yeah. Editor manips. And draw ocean, which makes sense. And enemy panel. Whoops. That's an enum, that's not an ocean. And undo. And actually, while we're here, yeah, we need to think about what's going to happen with undo. All right, so let's make sure. Oh, I screwed something up. So I incremented the version number of ocean map. And I said this only shows up at, oh, fog values is also v7. It was trying to load the fog values, and when you do that from a binary file, it's all screwed up. All right, so this is great. Um, this is great. So now what? I ask. Now what? You know what? Screw it. I'm going to delete the old fog of war entities completely. Actually, that's not good. Do I have these saved in the world? I don't think I do, right? So if I select fog of war. Oh, I do. Why did I only get one, though? Oh, because this is, okay, this is a little bit like Ocean Map. I already had this entity, right? All right. Is that true everywhere? If I go here, okay, there's no fog of war here. All right, I'm not going to delete this yet. I'm going to say this is deprecated. Delete me when we no longer have this in any of the files. And in the meantime, I can just, oh, you know what about the, expanding the ocean map to do this may not have been the right idea. And the reason is because we have two levels here, each of which needs to have its own fog, and ocean map assumes only one level. Not sure what to think about that. I could either make ocean map have an optional other level, or just store two fog levels for it. Yeah, screw it. It's got two fog levels for it. This is fog values upstairs and fog values downstairs. And if we want to generalize these later, we can do that. All right. Now, okay, so I have this ocean command. That'll make an ocean of the map size. And I'm going to say ocean right? And then map.fog present is fog present. And then Argument 2 is of a type that is not handled by command registration. We don't handle Booleans in command registration? I should say argument 3 also. So let me fix that. Now get bool is not going to be defined. Whoops. Get integer, get float. Get bool, arg string index int to bool. If arg is equal to true, return true. If arg is equal to false, return false. Error, sprint, error, unable to parse argument. Index arg. I totally should clean up, use temporary storage and automatically sends to outputs. I'll put that on the to-do, because why not? Return 0. Can't return 0. All right. So, I'm going to load that map. I'm going to select all the old ocean map. Can I destroy that? Whoops. Well, actually, before we destroy it, what's its dimensions? Doesn't have any dimensions. I guess you don't need to set the dimensions. Oh wait, 24 by 24. Wrapping, right? Is that right? 2, 3. Yeah, it's 6 squares per big square and 4 of those on a map. So it's 24 by 24. So I'm going to destroy that. I'm going to say ocean 24, 24 false true. All right. So that gives me, so it not only sets the dimensions, but it allocates the arrays and stuff, right? So this gives me an ocean map. I'm going to set it to wrapping. Fog is present. Ocean is not present. So that didn't work. There's a problem with working on a game engine in progress. What crashed? Oh shoot, did I switch to LLVM? We don't have debug info. Let me, oh, an assertion failed and save line 323. Let's switch to LLVM so we have debug info. Oh, we only handle arrays of integer right now. Well, so we can basically yeah, okay. So I'm just going to make this general code work for int and float. So the element, so this is an example of like a good assert, right? So a long time ago, to save myself work, I said, hey, I'm only going to implement arrays of integers right now, and I'm just going to assert if it's anything else, which at that time, if that ever comes up, I'll know I need to handle it. Now, of course, you don't want to ship that to actual end users trying to build a game world. But right now, it's the perfect time for me to hit that assert. It's like, okay, I want to do floats. Here we go. So now, of course, the goofy thing that's fine. I mean, you could sort of compute in a much more compressed form what the fog values are supposed to be, but like there's no reason to save 500 floats, honestly, but we'll do it anyway. Because we're testing the engine. We're testing the engine. All right. So info element. Warning, one of these is wrong. All right. So this is just printing out the numbers, and it prints out 20 in a row and then a new line, because you don't want to just print one per line, because then you have like a zillion numbers. So if I'm going to say, I'm going to make a short name for this E type is just infoArray.elementType.type. Fucking Emacs, man. I need to update the Emacs mode to not fight with me so much about indentation. Some nice person was cool enough to make this Emacs mode a long time ago, but it was before we changed the syntax a little bit. And it gets annoying now. But it's better than not having indentation at all. All right, so if eType is equal to integer, if element size is equal to 4, else if element size is equal to 8, else assert false, else assert false, and if element size is 4, print to builder, builder, let's do that. Seems right. Type mismatch between arguments of a binary operator. Left type bool, right type type info tag. E type. Oh, I pasted too much. Info element. It's supposed to be info element integer. Well now, okay, so now the problem is, because we asserted while I was in the middle of saving, we have a partial file. Wait, what? Maybe not. Oh no, because we build the string, right, we're better about that. We build the string. Failed to load entity 11205. Okay, well, first of all, I never made a way to load arrays of floats, so we're going to have to deal with that. Okay. Let's take a look at what it... I don't think this will be changed. Subversion says it's unchanged. Oh wait, it's completely empty. Oh, it never got... Okay, we must do a thing where we create the file, and then we're going to write to it, and then it gets added to source control. So the reason... So it's not actually in source control, but we load it anyway. Right, so if I delete unversioned items, oh, there's one. All right. So maybe we should in future handle that better. All right, so that's good. Let's see if we can save this thing, and then before I try to load again, we'll have to ocean 24 false true. Before I would be able to load again, I want to put this right next to the guy so I know where it is. All right, we saved. It's called 11205. Hey, here we go. It's a crap load of zeros in both upstairs and downstairs. So that looks like it worked. That's great. So now I need to load this stuff. Where do I do that? It's been so long since I looked at this code. Load single entity. For loading an array, wait, what? Oh, my indentation is screwed up. Emax. All right. So we basically have to do the same thing here. So this may not actually be an integer array. It's just we might want to use this for convenience. E-type is this. We assert E-type is equal to integer, or E-type is equal to float. Now, we get element size, we get info element, we read the count, and then we read the datas. If E-type is equal to case integer, case float, case assert false. You know, I should have done the above stuff with a switch statement too. Okay. So if, what was it called? Element size is equal to 4. Sometimes I like the case statements, and sometimes I don't. All right. Value, success, line. Okay. Now I don't think I have something called string to float 64 or string to float. We'll see. All right. Let's see what we've got. Oh, I do have string to float 64, or I was doing something here. Okay. I was trying to do it And there was some bug, which doesn't matter that, I mean, I believe we probably have fixed this bug by now because I did lots of polymorphism fixes in the past year. I mean, polymorphism's completely different implementation-wise than it was when I wrote this comment. But I will put on the to-do list, audit, verify, fix of string to float type T. There's just a fine art of like not getting sidetracked too far from what you're actually working on. Clean up. Don't make this be a separate pasted routine. Use polymorph. Okay, so string to float 64 is just, for now, going to be a paste job. This is not a real float conversion routine anyway. It just calls A to F from C. So eventually we'll have an actual good float reading routine, but right now we do not. So, well, can we load? Hey, we loaded, I guess, right? Whoops. So if I Control L, we got this entity and fog present. So it loaded it. Now here's the thing. If I make a thing with fog, then when the level starts, I want the fog to actually be there. And so I'm going to use values between 0 and 1 to say how much fog there is. So I'm going to go change my editor command, right, to if map.fog present for by pointer fog values upstairs, it equals 1, right? And then same for downstairs. And now we're not drawing this fog yet, but we'll be able to see that in the save file, right? So, whoops. So I load this, and I'm just gonna delete this and make a new one. Ocean map 2424 false true. No, it's just called ocean. It's just called ocean. I should auto select that. All right. So let's save that. That's 11206. This is the old one. That should no longer exist. There's 11206. And look, we've got 1.0s all in the file. So that's great. That's really everything we need right now. So hopefully when I save, I thought it would have deleted that. Let's see what happens. Why is 1205 not deleted? Oh, it is. I just have the buffer open. So if I try to, yeah, there's no such file. It's just because I had the buffer open. File's been removed. All right, so I'm going to check that in because that's progress. Is there any question about what's going on so far? About what the hell I'm doing? Bueller. Although, you know what? I just realized that I don't want my fog values to be just a single float, because I also want to have a target of that was a good exercise. Now I get to think about what I actually want. Yeah, the floats are how much fog is in each square, right? With 1 meaning it's completely invisible or completely opaque, and 0 would mean there's no fog in that square. So we're basically initializing the level to 1s everywhere, and we're not yet doing anything with that. However, now that I'm starting to think about what I do with it, right, you don't just want to know what's the current value, you want to know what the target value is, and you want to know maybe that's all. You want to know the current value and the target value, but you could store the target value as a bit field. And the question is, do you worry about being able to efficiently, like if you know that some of the fog values are not at their target, do you worry about trying to figure out which ones in a fast manner? Oh. Okay. Yeah, what we could do, instead of keeping a target value for each of these, we could just, when we clear an area of fog and tell it to start animating out, we can just have an array of squares to clear, and it's just the integer numbers of each index, right? And then we iterate over that, because the only thing we ever want is 1 or 0, and the only thing we ever want to do is go toward 0, right? That's the only thing we ever want to do smoothly. Like when we undo, we want fog to come back, but we probably just want to pop it back, because undo in this game just pops things. So yeah. So actually, that's kind of fine. All right, well, where is it? It's in entities. Yeah. So fog to clear upstairs is an array of S16, U16, right? So that's just going to tell us which we want to clear, and we'll do that. And when we put this in the undo buffer, in reality, when we save this, we probably don't want to save these arrays. We probably want to, like, just set their things to 0 so that if you save right when you're halfway fading out a square, when you load, it should just be gone. But that's a thing that we can worry about later. Is there a reason to do 1, 0 instead of just 255, 0 or 65,000 to 0? Well, for 255, 0, so let's say there's some rate at which you're fading out the fog. You'll get jitteriness in that rate because essentially every time, like if I'm fading it out, I'll convert from integer to float and multiply that float or reduce that float by some amount and then convert back to integer, and you're rounding every time. So you're gonna jitter the fading a little bit. With 64K values, you might not notice that very much, but with 8-bit, I think you would probably notice it. I mean, it depends on how much style there is to the fade. Like, maybe you start fading fast, but then it fades really slowly at the end, so you would really see it pop between levels too. But those all, anything like that is optimizations we can of course do later. Is the fog going to be animated? It might be more sophisticatedly animated later, but we're not worried about that. Right now, we're just worried about the gameplay part of it. So we want to be able to draw a square with the opacity value for each grid square corresponding to these values. That's all. Name guy says the current values are kind of transient, so I serialize them. The reason why to serialize them is just, I mean, I at least need to know which fog values are 1 and which are 0, right? That's all. You need to save something or else you won't know. So, and like I said, I could, because I know a lot about how the fog behaves, I could do a special thing that saves a highly compressed fog representation. And that's fine, but part of what I'm doing is just testing out the engine in the code, right? Because I made it use floats is why I noticed that we didn't support float arrays yet. Which was a good thing to know, because we will definitely want those eventually. So, you know, and again, you saw I've already changed my mind once or twice about a couple of things. So, like the more you prematurely optimize, or the more you optimize, let's not even say premature, but the more you optimize, the less you give yourself the option to be flexible and change your mind about what you're doing without doing more work than you otherwise would. 2, when you render the fog of war, can't you do a bilinear interpolation style of thing where the actual shape of the fog in a square is determined by the values of itself and its neighbors? Yes, and that's the plan, right? You want it to look nice, and you don't want it to go probably up to the edge of the square. You probably want it to, you know, go all the way to the edge if its neighbor is full, but otherwise fade out near the edge, totally. And we'll do that either in a shader or with a texture overlay. I don't know exactly how we're going to do that, but that is the plan, yes. Don't know why you don't just have a bit field, because you probably don't want to save and reload into that partially clear fog. Okay, I think I addressed that question. Just store an array of the ones currently changing with their current state. But then you still need to know the ones that aren't changing, whether they're 0 or 1, right? I mean, what I could do is just have an array of indices of all the fog values that are currently set to 1, right? And an array of things that are changing towards 0, and I could take them out of one array and put them in the other array. That might be better in the long term, but I don't care right now, honestly. Unless I start having problems with this representation, I don't care. Do the version annotations actually work? Yes. If they didn't work, I wouldn't be able to load the level when I add these, right? So see, I put V8. Oh, I need to upgrade the version to 8, right? The one that I'm loading is going to be version 7, so it'll know not to load these. If it didn't know that, then we would crash on load. But instead, hopefully I didn't screw it up, and we load the level successfully. So yes, that stuff works. That's all based on, this is basically a more compiler-supported version of the stuff I did in the witness and braid for entity save load. So it's a well-tested paradigm. It's just that now I can do it with annotations instead of a bunch of ugly markup functions. You've seen so many file parsers and none of them have supported versions. Then they're all crappy, because the number one thing you need to do is add stuff to a file format and still load old files. Like that's a fundamental requirement. Does the language have something related to graphics programming? No, it doesn't. That is considered to be a separate issue. Do I recommend a way to learn about it properly? I don't know, man. Graphics programming is just a giant disaster. It's so terrible. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. The way I learned it, which actually was good, but also hard, was I learned software rendering, where you're drawing every pixel on the screen yourself. The good thing about that is you don't have any of these weird, mysterious problems about when you have weird problems about why is nothing showing up on the screen, you know it's your fault, and you can straightforwardly figure out the answer with a regular debugger. Whereas when you're using GPUs and graphics drivers, you have no idea. It's just like the driver will have some information not correctly set up, and you don't have a way to visualize that usually. I mean, you can sort of use one of these programs like RenderDoc, but they're hard to use, and they often don't tell you what you need to know. So I actually, later on, I want to write a software renderer that we ship, not with the first version of this compiler, but later on as a library, because I very much enjoy programming in a software rendering world more than a hardware rendering world. Have I used WSL? I have no idea what WSL is. Isn't Casey doing that? I don't know. Casey's doing lighting, and he's doing software rendering of some kind. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, the thing is, any software renderer is going to be substantially slower than using the hardware. That's the trade-off, right? But it's a lot more fun to debug. Windows subsystem for Linux. I just don't care about that kind of thing. I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to run another operating system in my operating system. Each of those operating systems separately is already broken enough and overcomplicated enough. You now don't need to put one of them inside the other one. I'm sorry. It's just too insane. How much overhead does the serializations versioning require compared to protobuf? I don't know how protobuf works. How much overhead does the versioning require? Basically none. All it does, it's just stepping linearly through all the members. And it's like, okay, we know what version the file is. And if the version of the member is higher, don't load it, basically, or lower. Like sometimes, like this was only version 2 to 3. So it's like, oh, if the file version's not in that interval, don't load it. So it's just one if statement per struct member. It's really not much. Windows subsystem for Linux is the embrace extend part. It might be. I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like a very good embrace extend strategy, but it might be. Do I use compute shaders often for in-game calculations? No, I never have, actually. We might have used some on the witness for something, but if so, I didn't do it. I'm going to want to transition from cold drinks to hot drinks soon. It's cold in this here office, man. Okay. So, what am I doing? I have an ocean map that has fog. So now I'm going to go into my old draw fog of war. I've got this file called draw fog of war. And instead of the old thing, I'm going to do a new thing. I'm going to say map is get ocean map manager if no map return, if map.fog present return, set the shader to fog of war. And now I'm going to do the following. I'm just going to do the upstairs values so far. So I'm going to say fog is map. What was it called? Upstairs. And we're not going to worry about gradually clearing it right now. We're just going to draw squares. Now, because all the squares are set to 1, if I'm successful, then I shouldn't be able to see anything. Right? Okay. So we get this fog Z. Right now we just draw it 1 square over the player's head, which is kind of dumb, but whatever. We set up some stuff in the fog shader, all the textures and whatever, material color. And here's the loop that draws it. And instead of this, I'm going to say for opacity and index in fog we actually, this is going to be useful later. And I'm going to say if no opacity continue, so that's fine. And then, so this guy is using, or it has a grid-like, right? So a grid-like has stuff, right? So I can get index to coordinates. So I'm going to say I, J, R, index to coordinates, grid, what was it? Ocean dot grid, and the index, which is index. And then we're just going to say, does ocean have a corner? I think we assume, yeah. We assume the ocean starts at 0, 0 right now. Not great. Later, because the problem with, you can build your level assuming that you can't go past 0, 0, but at some point, when you're editing, you might want to expand to the left or something, and then you run out of room, and then you have to make a bunch of editor functionality to move everything. It's better if the ocean just can start somewhere, but that's a functionality we could add later. Okay, so the position is going to be a vector 3 of I, J, and fog Z. This offset has to do with world wrapping. And then the offset is going to be 0.5. The for, because the way the game works is a grid square is 1.0 units. All right. So, I don't know. Let's see. It's not called ocean. Oh, it's map. That's weird, because I call texture map sometime also. Hey, look, I can't see anything. That's great. That is good. Believe it or not. I've still got a bit of a cough. Excuse me while I go figure this out. All right, I'm definitely in the mood for a more hot drink. Look at this wonderful fog. Okay, so let's do a hack. The hack is going to be the following. I'm going to duplicate this loop. Q this is just going to be a stupid for a couple minutes thing. And I'm going to say pause. I never remember, is it called get active player? Get active hero. All right, so hero is get active hero. If hero pause is hero.position, if distance pause comma q is less than 5, then set the opacity to 0. Oh wait, why did I do that? It's that. All right. Hey, look. If it's within 5 squares of me, we clear it. Okay, let's make that like 2.5. Okay, so that's good. So now what we can do is write the thing where we fade out individual squares. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, so down here, this is supposed to have the opacity, and we're not using it yet. So let's use that and make sure it still works. Okay, let's come off LLVM also. The extra time is valuable. Okay, so we're good there. So now let's make it fade in. I'm going to do the following. Oh, up here where we set I'm also going to say what's the other one called? Fog to clear. To clear. So now will that parse? It should parse. Yeah. So for everything into clear, index, well, index to clear, not 4. Right. So I'm going to say opacity move toward opacity 0 de-opacity if opacity less than or equal to 0, else, actually if opacity, actually we're going to say fog sub index equals opacity. We want to write it back no matter what. If there's no opacity left, then we remove the current thing. Right? So now we just need to define the opacity which is some rate, let's just say O.5 times dt. Do we have a dt yet? No. I have like an animation dt that I should use. Yeah, okay. So dt is off the entity manager. De-opacity, so this basically says in 1 second we'll go halfway down. So it's a slow fade right now. Okay, so that's not going to do anything yet. Let's make sure that compiles. Expected, I force you to say what? Okay. Opacity is used. Here's the shadowing declaration, 7018. That's weird. Oh, no, I'm using I need a better error message. Better error message when you declare and use a variable on the same line. I was obviously thinking a little unclearly there. So we say opacity first is, we need to get it out of the array, fog index, right? All right, this won't do anything yet because we're not using this at all, but for it to do something, we just need to do this. So instead of setting the opacity to 0, we'll say array add 2 to clear index. Cast U16 index, because, time to pass not, oh. Yep. Great. Well, I wonder if we support dynamic arrays like that in our save files. Okay, so we need to make these. I mean, we could have them be these and just manually reallocate, but that's a pain in the ass. We could do that. I don't know. Okay. So now it's taking time. If you watch, I'll step and then it'll go away later. But we're not actually getting an opacity change, which may be a shader problem. And there's a trick we can do here. We can also, remember how we had this size of the square here? I'm going to multiply that by opacity. So we should get shrinking squares if this is working correctly. Yeah, see? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Which is enough for us to work with for now, and then we can debug the shader problem later. See that? That's a good trick for me being able to work on what I want to work on and not rat hole on other things. Okay. Right now, undo is just ignoring the fog state. Like I'm undoing all this. So we might want to fix that later. But this proves that our array is working, right? We're getting this continuous shrinkage of the opacity value as we expect. And all is good in the world there. Any questions about that? Because this is some good progress so far. Eventually we might have some optimizations, like we might say, oh, the fog is all cleared, so we don't even bother to do this routine, we just early out. Now, of course, if I go downstairs, it's got the same fog map. Let's fix that. Let's fix that. That's easy. So, if we're downstairs, fog is map.fog values downstairs and to clear downstairs. Oh, hero. Now we already called get active hero, right? So I don't. So, I don't know, seems fine. So now, I've got one particular fog map here, right? It's shaped like that, and then I go downstairs. Well, it's not clearing it because I'm taking the z distance into account. Let's deal with that. So, I mean, this is still our stupid hack thing. It doesn't matter, but pos.z is 0 and q.z is 0. Yeah. So we're just doing a 2D distance. There we go. We got our downstairs fog map, which is gonna oh, we're not wrapping for some reason. Did I not? I set that flag. I might not have set it last time I actually saved. All right. So this fog map is going to be quite different in character from the upstairs one. Whoop. There we go. See? Ooh. There we go. So that's good action. All right, let's look at questions. I saw some pop up when I asked about it. Is it radius-based or line of sight? I did radius-based temporarily, right? Because I'm doing this step by step. It's not going to be line of sight either. It's actually going to be one room at a time, plus a tiny little bit around the exits of any room. So the next step will be the one room at a time part. When you do hacks like that, have you ever forgotten to go back and take it out, tell time when you forgot about the hack, at which time it takes you off guard? Probably not. I mean, if you're conversant with your code and you're using it regularly, then there's no problem, because you see these things regularly. That said, there probably have been rare occasions where something like that happens, where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot, I meant to fill this out, and I didn't. And sometimes that can be a little bit confusing, and that confusion does have a small cost. But I don't think the cost is as big as the cost of like getting rat-holed and not being able to finish what you're trying to do right this second, right? Which I value a lot. Because this is how I find, you know, the way I design games is by designing them as I build them. And so, like, the longer you get rat-holed on larger technical problems, the longer it takes to make these decisions about what your game is, right? So that's not good. I'm going to get some warm beverage, and I'll be back. Like this particular hack, to continue the answer to that question, the upstairs-downstairs hack would be noticed right away, because you'd go downstairs, like if I forgot about it and came back next week and played the game, I'd go downstairs and the fog wouldn't work right, and I'd be like, oh, right. So that's the good kind of temporary hack to put in, which is the kind that you're obviously gonna notice if you forget. The bad kind is like one that's in there like stealthy. How do you do color gradients on meshes? Notice them in the witness 2. Is it some texture lookup shader thing or made in the modeling software? It all depends on exactly what you're doing and how you want to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. A lot of ways. Why does he forget the state of the fog between the floors? He doesn't. What are you talking about? He doesn't forget the state of the fog between the floors. Right? This is the upstairs fog. There's the downstairs fog. He hasn't explored the downstairs yet. Why would he know what's downstairs? Then he goes upstairs, and he explored this, so it's there. So I'm not sure why you're asking why he forgets it, because he obviously didn't forget it. Maybe you're thinking about that I restarted the game or something, but between floors he doesn't forget. Which math subjects are crucial for game development? I mean, if you want to do anything 3D at all, you need to know linear algebra. And I mean, basic calculus is very helpful. Basic physics is very helpful, just like Newtonian physics, understanding all that stuff. Because even if you're not making a game with physics per se, if you're making a game with like a platformer guy, or even this game where I've just got guys running around a grid, the idea of how Newtonian physics works will help you program those things. Aside from that, it's just contextual. You can just learn whatever you need to know to solve whatever problem is in front of you. You do a lot of debug prints, like print s is whatever, print type of s is whatever. Can you do a meta thing? So you only have to type dprint whatever to get the same output. I could do that right now, but it would require me to make a meta program that looks for those. Actually, yeah, because the thing is, you would have to do it from a meta program right now, and I just have been too lazy to do that. In the long term, though, in the medium term, when the macro system goes in, then you'll just be able to do that with a regular procedure declaration, and that's when I'll probably do that. I mean, I'll probably put a standard like debug print in the standard library or whatever. Okay. So we're going to worry about the opacity later. I assume that we're just not using that in the shader. And anyway, like later on, we're going to want to transmit more information, like whether your neighbors are fogged or not, and so forth. So for now, let me fix the wrapping. Right? I need to, yeah, I forgot to set it to wrapping. I hope that didn't destroy and recreate the grid, which would set all my fogs to 0. No, it didn't. All right. Are we wrapping? Yep. Okay. So that's fine. Now what? Now what? Now we're going to do the room by room clear. So I'm going to say clear see, this is a little goofy because I'm going to be calling this every time. We're going to write a clear routine that looks relatively expensive. And then we will we'll write at least some kind of early out, because we're going to call this every time the player moves a square. So we're going to be clearing all this fog that doesn't need to be cleared like every time. But that's, we're just getting it working. Clear fog around player, or just pause as a vector 3, right? So like it could be as simple as we keep an array of all screen indexes that we've cleared or something, right? Anyway, so we're going to call this other thing, we're going to say get ij, or no, we're going to say position to coordinates. Pause. Let's get the manager. Okay. Whoops. Not get ocean, get ocean map. So we're going to call it ocean this time. So I and j are the integer coordinates, and screen I is I divided by, actually, does the ocean, is that a variable that we have? Yeah, per screen, right? So screen I, screen j. Now, in fact, we'll just call this S, because we're going to use this a few times. And then for zero to, I mean, you could do this either way. Like whether you try to factor out the multiplies outside the loop or not, I'm not going to worry about it. For I 0 to s minus 1, we're just going to iterate over every square, and I'm going to say, maybe instead of II and JJ, we pick something more explanatory. Unbased. So offset I is screen I times S. Offset J is screen J times S. So this looks goofy that we're dividing and then multiplying, but this is an integer divide and an integer multiply, right? So this is going to give us essentially the lower left corner of every particular screen, right? So now I'm going to say I is unbased I plus offset I, right? And then JJ is unbased J plus offset J. And then index is, we're just going to use this routine even though do I not have a get index? Get index. I have index to ij, but I don't have ij to index. Whatever. Index is jj times grid dot squares x plus I. Cleanup. Use an abstraction. So index U16 is going to be cast this to U16 because that's what we're putting in this array. And now we're just going to say array add if unique and then, of course, we need to have done this thing. To clear, comma, index U16. Okay, I'm going to get rid of my radius clearing thing down here. We don't want that anymore. Right? And then this we're going to pull out into a helper function so we can call it. Hopefully we're not using guy later down in the routine, but if we are, we'll just do that. Okay, so get fog stuff, scope file, manager, entity manager, fog values, to clear, sorry, those are returns, not arguments. Oh, fog Z. And then up here I'm going to say fog Z fog values to clear is get fog stuff manager. And we'll do that down here as well. So return fog to clear guy Z. Right. I guess I require myself to do this right now. I should fix that. Position to coordinates. That. Oh. I guess we assume that that is the assumption that we start at 0, 0 still. I wanted floats. What? Guy Z. Why did I return those in the wrong order? I don't know. Pointer versus non-pointer. Oh, this is not an array of pointer to U16. It's a pointer to an array of U16. Come on, bro. And it's not that, it's that. Undeclared identifier fog. Let's just call it fog up here. Oh, okay, I commented out the wrong part. This is the part that animates the opacity. This is the part that clears the opacity. They look kind of similar. Okay, so when I run this, what should happen is we won't be able to see anything again because we're not ever clearing any fog. Hey, look, we can't see anything. Great. Now the ultra stupid version of this is I'm just going to call clear fog around player in this routine every frame. So I'm going to say guy, I'm going to put this in braces. Guys get active hero manager if guy clear fog around player manager guy dot position. Hey, now we're a square at a time. You know, really, I don't necessarily want to clear fog at every exit, because like for this exit to the northwest of here, I don't have a path to that. So maybe we want to A-star it later or something, but that would be a long-term thing. Hey, 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 hey. All right. Now, before I try to make this faster at all, well, let's go downstairs, make sure it works downstairs. Hey, hey, all right, great. You may think this is less cool than the circular thing, but this is the game mechanics of this game, man. And it'll be cool by the time we're done. It'll be cool. Okay, let's make the fog fade faster because let's put that in a variable, actually. So we're going to say gameplay visuals.fog clear rate. Where is gameplay visuals? I never remember. Should put it in its own file so that I remember. The search program is so goddamn slow. I can compile 10 times faster than it can search for text. Like, what is these people's problem? Sukban. So we're going to make a thing here called fog clearing rate. And in all dot variables, we're going to say fog clearing rate, it's going to be like 3. And we'll just adjust that to taste. Oh, that's maybe a little fast. I don't know, maybe it's fine. That felt a little fast. Is the speed a little bit inconstant, or is that me imagining? Let's make it 2. I like 2 a little better. Maybe, you know, when something's new, it's... You know what? I feel like we're drawing this... I feel like we're drawing this more than once per frame under some conditions, so the rate isn't... Because we're doing the update in our draw function, if we draw it more than once... Like, I felt like right there... Yeah, you know what? I bet if I go here... Right, obviously we call it more than once because of the wrapping, so... Yep. And this is the wrong thing anyway. So and it's if ocean and ocean.fog present, we draw a fog of war. Let's update separately right. And then that, and we'll delete this because we don't want that radius clearing anymore. Except we do, actually, so maybe I'll paste it up there. Okay. Okay, so that should fix the speed problem. It should be the same speed all the time now. Yeah. All right. So, next. Next, what are we going to do? We're going to do the doorways. And we're going to start with just the, so there's a box, right? So we're going to do the top and bottom of the box, and then we're going to do the left and right of the box. So first, top and bottom. So, top and bottom. You know what? Screw it. This is by far not the fastest way to do this, but who cares? Okay, so if I is equal to, or unbased I is equal to 0, or unbased I is equal to s minus 1, or unbased j is equal to 0, or unbased j is equal to s minus 1. Those are the conditions to hit all of the border squares. If any of that is true, then we do the following. I have a can go routine that'll tell me square pos v3 right if can go guy square pos. Hopefully a lot of these arguments are optional. Let's see if that compiles. Unclear identifier guy. Should call his missing argument delta. I think this probably has to be a vector 3. Incompatible structs wanted proximity grid. Okay. All right. So if we can go okay, this is not the right test. It's fine. We're just going to factor this into something else. Really what we want to do is like, look, if we're on the top, we want to go 1 square north, right? If we're on the bottom, we want to go 1 square south, and so forth. So I'm going to do the following thing. If unbased I is equal to 0, then check neighbor manager to clear. I probably need to pass something else. Right. II minus 1 JJ. Right. And then we do that for all 4. And then I'm going to be sad when I have to paste extra arguments 4 times. But that's how it is. Okay. So we're going to go check neighbor, and I'm just going to define that right here. To clear pointer to an array of U16. Oh. II int JJ ints. So we take the square pause and we don't do anything. Attempt to use a variable from an outer stack frame. All right. We don't do closures yet. Still attempt to use what? Oh. All right, great. Do the same thing in here for now. We might do something a little more fancier. In fact, we will, but for now, we're just going to do this. Kind of want to make pointer and non-pointer auto-coerce. Attempt to use variable from an outer stack frame. Index U16. We'll put these together. All right. Hey, look at that. Except we're not also checking our square. So, like, I can't go in this corner in the upper right, but I can go in the neighbor squares. So we cleared the neighbor squares, even though we shouldn't, right? But basically, anywhere that we can go, we've cleared 1 extra. All right, so let me do that. Check neighbor. IIJJ minus 1, 0. So 1, 0, 0, 1, because we're going to check both squares. So we need to know what the original square was. This is minus 1, 0, 1. All right. So here, square pos, di is int, dj int, neighbor pos is v3xx ii plus di, jj plus dj. If no guy, return. Actually, yeah, it's fine. If we can go if we can't go to the square pos, we return. If we can't go to the neighbor pos, return. Otherwise, we do the thing. How's that? Oh, that's weird. I screwed up. I screwed something up. Oh, because we're clearing, right, I changed the name of the variable. JJ plus DJ, II plus DI. There we go. What? It still did it. Oh, because on this, right, on this room, it's actually the, yeah. I might have to do an A-star Pathfinder. Be a good standard library, though. Let's make the FogZ. It's like hovering too high now. Let's just make it like closer to the ground. Like later, it'll be a more sophisticated effect, but yeah. All right. So it's working okay in cases like this, except actually, I'm not sure what I want the FogZ to be. 0.5, 7. Yeah. Okay, it's not going to matter that much because what I was actually going to do is the following. You're returning GuyZ instead of FogZ. What? That's a good point. Why did I not notice that? Thank you. Okay. This makes more sense. Yeah, I was going to say, that is pretty weird. All right, let's bring it back down to like 0.4. I should put that into the tweaks file. Yeah, all right. This is close enough for what a low rent effect this is right now. Okay, so okay, so now I'm going to clear a small radius around. It's going to be a radius of 1.3, which is close enough to get orthogonal neighbors, but not close enough to get diagonals. And now this is interesting because we might want to half clear the diagonals or something, right? So we might want to fatten up our array to have like, oh, do we want to clear this all the way or halfway? But given that we can't even do the opacity yet, let's not worry about that. All right. So we're just gonna be fully bananas here. Well, no, we don't need to be fully bananas. We just, okay, there's an error here already. Which is, this could be negative, and that's very bad. But our grid-like stuff will handle wrapping. So we'll call it TI. I did this in place for some reason. TITJ. For target I. Well, neighbor I neighbor J plus DI JJ plus DJ. And we're just going to wrap these. Wrap grid neighbor I neighbor J. I must have done all this grid-like stuff before I was comfortable with having multiple return values, or before I even implemented them, because I would never do it that way now. Okay. Neighbor I, neighbor J. So these are not ever going to be negative. Oops. Typo. And this should be only if grid.wrapping. Okay. Yeah, it's true, like, maybe we want to semi-clear stuff based on the state of the surrounding squares. I think all that is nuance we're going to get to later. For tonight, we're not going to be too fancy, because I want to implement the basics and then give myself time to think about how it should be, which is a strategy that I like doing. Someone's complaining that the code isn't compact enough in the chat. All right, that's your opinion. So what am I doing now? I'm at like one of these natural inflection points where, oh yeah, I'm clearing the neighbors of that guy. I can do this with a super hack. But let's not. We'll say maybe clear fog to clear neighbor I, neighbor J. We're just going to redundantly do all of them. Of course, I needed to pass this into here. For now, well, for wrapping, we do that. Neighbor I, neighbor j. Wait, why do I need that? Oh, yeah, right, for the can go. This is wrong. Okay. Use a float. If fog sub index, there's no fog there, return. No need to clear. Okay, so now we've got this disaster of more arguments. So check neighbor takes the fog now. I don't know what else I forgot. Undeclared identifier fog. Really? Fog values. Just call it fog to be consistent with our other routine. Wow, I don't know if that was going to work. Hey, look, it worked. So we're clearing a whole bunch here because of this corner thing and because of this, but it did what we wanted. Look, we've got a little bit of an area around the edges, and when we go into there, then we can see more. How great is that? That's so great, it's just awesome. It's awesome possum. So that's the main thing that I had wanted to do today. I mean, we can start working on the shader a little bit and stuff. Get the opacity in there. Let's check the downstairs. I might have broken the downstairs because I might have. Hey. There we go. So there it opens a whole bunch because, like, there's a lot of squares where I can go there. I don't know if I want to do something more sophisticated. I can imagine eventually making this be manual markup because, like, here the border of this region is this wide row down here. But logically speaking, the thing that feels like the room in the map is the one square up from that. So it's almost like, well, we should detect that or let it mark up. I don't know. But this is good enough for now. This is way better than what we had. Way better than what we had. Yeah, this is a bummer. You shouldn't be able to see into this next room from here. No, except you can in the original game, I guess. Wait, what? Yeah. Right, because this is still, no, wait. Wait, what? I'm clearing one. That's in the next square. I see. I'm somehow clearing too much. I overdid it. Oh, because I'm... it's fine for now. It's fine. How many lines of code is Silkabon now, and how long does it take to compile these days? Well, the compiler got a little slower because of things that I've been doing. So on this machine, it's up to 1.25 seconds. On my laptop, it's actually 0.9 seconds, and on my new computer, it's 0.7 seconds. So it's still pretty fast, but I want to go and do an optimization pass and figure out why it's this slow. It's still around 58,000 lines, which is where it's been hovering for a while, because I'm sort of, you know, removing things and rewriting them and that kind of stuff. Although, this does include comments, and one thing I did a while back, like between that demo that I gave at the conference in Croatia, I probably went and deleted 5,000 lines or so of commented out code and replaced it with working code. So it's at least 10% more real code being compiled than it was at that time. But yeah, definitely things have slowed down a little bit, and it's on my list to go hammer on that and make it faster again. The opacity thing may just be the wrong blending mode. It's true. It's true. No, it was like 0.5 or 0.4 seconds in the demo, which was on my laptop, which is a little faster than this machine. But there's nothing that should, in principle, prevent us from being about that fast. Oh, one thing that happened that's not our fault is the frickin' link time has gone up. So see, we're 1.2 seconds, but more than half of that is the link time. And that is higher than it used to be. And the reason is that we had to use a different, we're still using MS Link, but it's a different version because we needed to use one that doesn't make things that are incompatible with Windows XP, because that's bullshit. And that linker happens to be slower than the new one or something. So we've taken an additional hit here in link time. Eventually, almost all of this 0.65 seconds is going to go away. So like, we're going to be at minimum half as fast and probably much faster than that, especially if we manage to parallelize parts of the compiler. You've been waiting for the next GAM programming stream. It's been going for 2 hours, man. All right, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. And then when we come back, on return, we'll work on the fog shader. Let me just check this in. I also want to put that on all the levels. Yep, tea break. Hell yeah. Look at that. It's gone. You know, I feel like the cool thing to do is going to be to do fog in a full screen post pass. So maybe we'll make the subject of the next stream or something, or we have like a fog mask and we blur it. That'll be some good action. Yeah. I started with basic, not assembly. I learned basic on the Commodore VIC-20 and then the TRS-80 color computer. But that said, I have had many years of programming experience, and I might have been a better programmer faster if that's not the first languages I used. It definitely was not that easy to program in BASIC. Or, you know, it's easy to make something appear on the screen, but it's harder to debug than most things, right? So there's that. I'm eating all the Christmas chocolate that Valve sent us. It's the good part about having a game that does well enough on Steam is you get chocolates from Valve every year. What the hell is this? Apricots in dark chocolate. All right. What kind of integrator did I use in the witness? Symplectic or high order RK? Why do you think there's an integrator in the witness? There isn't one. There simply is not one anywhere in the code. These are kind of sour. If I declare literally foo : equals open paren in close paren, is that a procedure type or an int type? I believe I parse that as a procedure, yeah. You know, if you don't like that, just keep in mind syntax may change. How am I handling the fog? I'm not going to repeat that. Everyone who just watched me do it knows the answer to that. So you can watch it on stream later if you're curious. When do I think I'll come back for the PC setup thing? I feel like I'm going to do it right after this, but I'm not sure what I'm going to set up. I've already installed Visual Studio and the compiler for this language. And OBS. Oh, but I need Commander and I don't know. Go didn't inspire very much. Like the auto typing and things, many languages have their own version of that, and Go's is actually different. Like in Go, you have to put type tags onto literals, for example, and we don't have to do that, so, etc. Have I played PUBG on the new PC? No. All right. Let's do some work. What was I going to do? Oh, I was going to try to get the shader to be better. Oh, variables file is not good. Why did I not? Did I not commit that? Weird. I must have reverted that before, yeah. It's now called move to cell distance default. All right. So yeah, we're totally going to want an A star. That'll be a fun thing for later. Stream A star pathfinding for because it'll be fun to make a generic A star routine that we can put in the standard library and anyone can use and so forth. Okay. All right. So here's our shader. And let's just make sure that we're actually using this. So, oh, another thing I need to do is make the mouse, like because of the way I'm doing mouse pointer stuff, I can't see it when it's over the window ever. When instead, like if we don't, if it's, I don't know. I need to at least not draw the mouse pointer if it's outside the client area so I can do stuff like resizing the window and things. All right. Do I have that on my to-do list? Okay. So here's our shader. If I edit this shader so as to do something funny like output color.x equals 1, it should be all red. Yeah. Oh. Right, okay, we're in HDR, so 0.5 is pretty close to 1. Okay, so that's great. What are we doing? Oh, color scale is blah, 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 1. All right, well, in our vertex shader, color.w I'm setting it to material color. Let's make it scale color. That's not going to change anything because I'm ditching it later. So down here in the oh wait, no. Right, we're putting that in scale color anyway. So scale color where's the input color? I forget. So we have invert color scale. Okay. Let's make sure we're not getting any errors. We did that. We fixed those. Did those, I think. Okay. Now, so color scale. Well, we have scale color. We have this color. Who's using color? Output color dot w's color scale dot w. All right. Well, how about if we put that in the red channel? Okay, we're using the texture alpha somehow. I should have turned off that square shrinkage. Wait, the texture alpha is getting in some way. Because you notice how you can see the increasing and decreasing opacity. What if we make it 0? Huh. 0.5. 0.9. So the blend factor is definitely set up. Let's go to our all.variables and fog clearing rate. We'll change that to O.2. It's going to be very slow. Oh yeah, it's working. We just can't see it because it's fast right now. See? It's getting more transparent. Now the weird thing is it doesn't ever seem to be completely opaque. This is kind of bothering me. All right, so... Oh wait. What? Maybe I'm confused. No, it's not. It's not working. Why did it look like it was working? Maybe my blend factor is something really weird. Maybe it's like blend add or something. Let me check that, and I'm also gonna get rid of this. So they're not going to shrink anymore. The squares are going to be constant size. And then yeah, in theory this would put the scale color. Why don't I, okay, before I mess with this, output color equals scale color. Oh, color scale. Well, all right, so that I can see the results. Okay. It's definitely, what's happening is it's not fading out correctly, but then when the game gives up on drawing them because they're all 0, then we see it. We see the room. So that sucks. Well, let's check that blend. Wave blend factor. That's weird. GL depth mask, GL disable, GL enable, GL blend. I never remember. Blend funk there. So this is your standard blend for like crossfade between, you know, a translucent material in the background. Except of course it's like not for gamma corrected things, which is a screw up, but whatever. Damn it, bro. Okay, the blend is definitely there. Wait, it's so weird. Okay, well, it's definitely 1 stored in the color scale. Did I screw it up? Okay, wait, it's called scale color. This is confusing, man. Scale color. And I have another thing called color scale. That's what's confusing me. Output color is scale color. Let's see that. Hey, there we go. Man, naming your variables right. All right, so I've got some fog. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to, in here, we're going to say, vertex alpha is square root of opacity. Make the fade more uniform to compensate somewhat for HDR. If you don't know why, it's maybe a little complicated to explain. Vertex alpha. Oh, right. That is not a global. Hey, all right, let's make that go a little faster. Fog clearing rate 1.0. Shoop. That is cool, that is cool. Look at that. Maybe even a little slower, 0.8. That might be enough for tonight. I think next time we make this into a cooler graphical effect. But I think for now we're pretty good. We're pretty good. What does the first scene you used to use on streams look like now? It probably still looks like crap. If you mean this one, if it'll even load, yeah. This one still looks like crap. We haven't worked on it. Or unless you mean this, man, this SSD is so slow. This one we haven't touched since last year, so this still looks the same as well. Which will release first, the compiler or Sokoban? I don't actually know. We're just going to keep working on both, and then we're going to see. Okay, actually one more thing I wanted to do before this part of the stream is over, and then we do a computer setup stream. is and maybe if we run out of computer setup things to do, we can do mouse pointer visibility. I want to make this used on all the levels, right? So problem is there's 3 maps here. So on this map we want to use it. So again, I don't have a command just to allocate the fog, so I'm going to do this. Oh, really? There's 2 ocean maps. Oh, that was deselect, not destroy. But ocean, 24, 24, false, true. That's way down there. Put it next to the guy. And set it to be wrapping. And then ocean 24, wait, what are these? Gem slot. Why did the gem slots not load? I don't know, but they didn't. All right, ocean 24, 24, false, true. And I guess I create gem slots with the wrong name. Let's fix that. Wrapping. Okay, here the gem slots are called promised extra gem holder. Okay. Oh, now they loaded. Wait, no. It's weird. Because they had gems in them? Alright, whatever. Are these all slots? I must have, the old script that created this level must have given gem slots a different name if they started with gems inside, which is not right. I mean, way in the early implementations that was true when we were 2D, but it is not how it is now. All right, so and then down here, I've got the same problem. A little harder to see. What did I just select? The problem with the wrapping right now is I can't tell which copy of things is legit. All right, this is really bugging me. I'm just going to do one at a time. Wait, I fixed this bug. Did I not update? This was a raycasting bug that I fixed. Today. I don't know. What just happened? This loaded. These didn't load. Oh my God, I screwed something up in the entity format. Well, that's no good. I screwed something up. Well, let's try seeing where we crash. Let's try seeing where we crash. Writing location 0. We didn't get a very useful call stack out of this, if I may say so. I don't know whose fault that is. Oh wait, I don't know if I recompiled with LLVM. I probably didn't. LLVM, start, and load the other level. Break, okay. Clear fog around player. It's showing the wrong line. Of course, we're in array add if unique. Probably in maybe clear. Okay. This array is messed up. So remember when I made this note, hey, do we handle in loading blah, blah, blah? The answer is no. So we need to do that. Because we're assuming it's just the array without the dots in it, which means we're not setting the data slot. All right. So let's do that. Or sorry, I mean we're setting the allocated slot to data, and we're not setting the data slot, right? Allocated should be the same as count, yeah. So in the type info, how do I tell the difference? Info, oh, it's in preload. In type info array, okay, if array type can be static or dynamic. All right, so let's go to save. Okay. If info array dot array type is equal to case info array dot static info array dot dynamic, default case assert false, because why not? Now, if it's static, static means this thing. These names aren't very good. Someday I need to rename them. I'm going to say memory is this, right? And this is memory. In the dynamic case, we say it's one of these, and allocated is also count. And we don't set the allocator. 612. View declaration of data. 596. Oh, right. Oh, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? What's array? It's still the same garbage. Why is that? Why didn't our thing fire? Okay, it didn't claim to be loading anything dynamic there, which is a little sad. Whoops. Now it's like not responding to the keyboard input. That's a weird bug that happened. I think there's some key I pressed to get into weird mode. Okay, it never said that. That's weird. So let's look at, what is this thing called? Like fog to clear upstairs. So if item.name is fog to clear upstairs, then so that's a different bug that we're not going to worry about right now. Okay, it didn't load it from this guy because this guy's version is old enough, because we made this fog map before we added that member. So we're not trying to load that member. Here we are when I try to load the other level. But we never, it's bizarre. This is going to spam the hell out of us because it's going to do that for every item, everything in the game. Wait, it didn't print it at all. What? Oh, fog values upstairs. Fog values downstairs. Oh, fog values. What? What? We're not even on the thing that I thought we were. That's just a regular frickin' array, bro. It is very strange. Maybe I'm overwriting my bounds of my memory or something. I might have screwed something up by doing the thing that I did. Nah, I don't know. Wait, what? Now I'm confused about something. Let's see where we crash again. We're in array add if unique, clear fog around player. Okay, no, this just means we completed loading that guy. And we never had an issue. Whoa, whoa. Let's go look at. Let's go look at that entity file. So. Ugh, I don't give the. Well, we'll go figure it out. We'll go data levels. Two is the one that's crashing. And modified 11272. So there's our fog values upstairs. There's our fog values downstairs. Fog to clear upstairs and fog to clear downstairs have values of 0, which means we're not, okay. When we get a 0, we're just returning, which is maybe not the right thing to do. If count is equal to 0, we return true and say, hey, we loaded this. Now, that makes sense if our array of items is guaranteed to be initialized to default values, which it should be. But maybe these aren't for some reason. I'm going to do a temporary. Okay, that definitely fixed it. I think this is a compiler bug. I think. Because I believe when we pass stuff in here, it's supposed to be default constructed. Why is that guy freaking out? Whoa, little buddy. What are you doing? It shouldn't be a versioning thing. So the thing is, before we... Oh, you know what? All of this code was written all of this code was written before I did the work for initializers and stuff. So I think the way, before you load something, you're supposed to, I think, set everybody to their default values, but where is damn it, I have something that like generates a massive, yeah, here we go. So this insertion string generates a bunch of stuff, and I think yeah, I have this thing called init entity default states. And that may not do the right thing. I mean, let's go. Like, it might not understand all the types. Now, it shouldn't have to, because now we have these things called initializers. Well, and constructors, but I probably won't call the constructor if it exists. But init, and it, man, where do I need to figure out what I call it? So this is insertion string, storage strings. Oh, I make it right here, right? Entity default states is make default. Okay, you know what? This is going to go longer. Okay. Temporary workaround for problemo. So we're going to clean this up because this was all done before we had initializers and constructors. We're going to get rid of make default entity and entity default states. And the construction of default state strings. So here we memcopy from the default. So if we had failed to set that up correctly, which we may well have done, well, I don't know. I have a feeling it may not end up any different, but we'll see. Info at type info struct. What is that? Okay, it's called type. If info.type is equal to type info in fact, this had better be true. So we're going to do this, and instead of that, we're just going to say if tis.initializer of results. And that should prevent us from having to do that also. Hey, look, copy anything that needs copying, incomplete arrays. Oh God, this is the problem right here, actually. Probably. Well, let's make sure that nothing new explodes with this change that I just did. People still want to call init entity default states. Oh, geez. I forgot that undo might want to use this stuff. Undeclared identity. Well, what should I do about this? Let's just do it the fun way, and we'll mark these, because I want to make sure all this stuff works. Well, although... you know what, I'm going to bring back the entity default states for now, because let's not destabilize these other things while I'm trying to fix this one thing, right? That's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring back wait, why didn't that work? All right. I'm going to bring back all this stuff. We're just not going to use it for this thing. And we're going to gradually phase out our use of this. Okay, we're not going to change this, because that's what we're working on. Okay. All right. We've saved that. We're going to visit that here. See if that, uh-oh, in added strings, that means I screwed something up there. Look at what it looks like. Should I also call its constructor? I guess I should. Yeah. I was thinking about that as I did it. So init entity default states, we're just not outputting that. Oh, because I didn't do this. Default state strings. Okay, so let's do that. So let's see if that exploded. That totally exploded. Oh my God. Well, I might have to revert all this stuff. No, okay. Okay, well, since I'm thinking this wasn't the problem anyway, but it should work, figure out why the initializer constructor call in entities does not work. We'd like to phase out default states, question mark. Or at least I could initialize default states at runtime without generating a bunch of ugly code. But maybe the way I did it is the best way anyway. I honestly don't know. I'm going to have some more Valve chocolate. This is like chocolate-covered orange slices. Orange confit in dark chocolate. All right. I already did that. People, follow along, bro. All right. That whole line of inquiry is going to have to be something I look into later. So we're going to get our type info array. Based on what kind of array it is, we're going to do some different things. If it's static, well, let me just paste all this in there. And then we'll lift it out. Okay, this is an invariant. Except that's not. All right, we're just going to do this. Really, we should set up the array types so that the count and data are in the same. For some reason, I didn't do that. That would really be ideal. We may do that eventually. Okay. So it looks like I just dumbly pasted the same code. The thing is that where we get count from, actually where we get count from really is going to be the same. That's always byte 0, but where data is different in each of these cases. So, meh. Oh, and all of this was done before we had the relative pointer packing. So this will totally just eat crap and die if we give it a relative pointer. Let me just assert on that. Info array. Assert not info array dot relative pointer size. We'll do that in save also. Okay. We could like put in compile time asserts like, hey, you declared an entity with a relative pointer, and so forth. And let's see if we broke anything. No. All right. Now, Where was my temporary thing that was setting them? Oh, it was in save. So what happens if I just comment this out now? This in theory should work. Hey, it worked. I guess. I mean, maybe it's just not crashing, but I choose to believe. I choose to believe. I'm just going to run it a few times. Let's go downstairs, yo. Ah, I'm trapped in a little room. I'm trapped in a little room. Oh dear. Oh dear. You know, this whole clearing neighbors thing probably won't be necessary once we have a higher fidelity shader. That'll be good. We'll do that sometime soon. All right, so get rid of this. Ka-choom. That's so much cooler. This is just like way better. Even though it still looks obviously very primitive, it's tremendously better than we started with a few hours ago. So in Fogs, not Fox, in Fog Stream Part 2, we will continue. So thanks everybody for coming by. I'm going to